Happy Felix weekend, everyone. Today we'll show the Kings some love and get you set for the Mariners and Orioles. We'll also look back on Emerson Hancock's Major League debut here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, August 11th, 2023. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. On the show today, we'll get you set for the Mariners and Orioles. We also got to talk some Felix, because obviously it's Felix weekend at the ballpark. Very excited about that. But first, we're actually recording this on Thursday because Colby is heading to Felix weekend. So Emerson Hancock made his Major League debut last night for us in the Mariners 6-1 win over the Padres. Final line for Hancock: 2 hits, 1 earned run, 3 strikeouts, 3 walks over 5 innings pitched. Colby, your thoughts?
He was fine. I mean, I don't know, like, there are a lot of people who were adamant that he was fantastic and like, oh, the Mariners have done it again. And I wonder what game they were watching, because Emerson was fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with being fine. Honestly, he looked like Kyle Gibson. How about that? He didn't strike a lot of guys out, lost control at times.
I totally get that. It's just I see through you. I know what you mean by that. I know why you're saying it, and I know why you're hammering that home.
Yeah, I was right. Emerson Hancock looked like a number 5 starter last night. That's fine. That's all you need him to be. He had a pretty good 2-seamer. That was 92 to 93, occasionally touched 95, but you notice when the velocity went up, his command went away. It didn't really have enough of a breaking ball or an off-speed pitch to challenge the Padres all that often. He was living on the fastball, and he was getting good run on it, and he got good results on the pitch, but that's all it is. He walked 3 guys. He struck out 3 in 5 innings, and neither of those numbers are good. He gave up 3 stolen bases. Like, that's him, not Cal Raleigh. He gave up 3 stolen bases because he forgot to check the runners. He didn't, throw home for an easy out that could have gotten him the shutout. He just took the out at first, which, again, fine, whatever. He's a rookie. But yeah, this idea that he was like amazing or something like that, he was fine. He was totally fine. And that's all the Mariners need him to be, is fine. Go 5, go 6, give up 2 or 3 runs, try and do better on the walk department next time around. But yeah, he was fine. It was a 2-seamer. It was a cutter. And he managed to avoid the barrel the entire night, which is good. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you he looked amazing. He looked like anything more than, I don't know, 2022 Chris Flexen. Like, this is who he is right now. Don't roll your eyes at me. I'm right. He's a number 5 right now. And occasionally he'll look like a number 4. But going 5 innings, giving up 1 run while walking 3 and striking out 3, that is not a mid-rotation performance. That's a number 5. That's a number 4. Like, the stuff just isn't there to support that he's anything more than what he was last night. He's fine. He's not going to generate whiffs. He typically isn't going to walk 3 guys in 5. So I'm not too concerned about that. But he's also not, a sub 2 base on ball per night guy. Like, he's just not that guy. He's totally fine. He's a major league quality pitcher, which is something I've said, even when you were calling me a hater, I'm like, well, he's a major leaguer, but that doesn't mean that he's like an elite or even a mid-rotation guy. He just is who he is.
That's not why I'm calling you a hater either. I'm calling you a hater because you keep on hammering home who he is, because you know that it annoys me and you know that it annoys everyone listening.
Well, then why are you annoyed that I'm telling you the truth?
No, it's just because of how you're doing it. It's very aggressive.
Emerson Hancock. No, it's not. I'm very direct about this. Emerson Hancock.
I mean, not today, but like
is a number 5 starter.
Sure.
That's who he is. And maybe he's a really good number 5. Maybe he's even a mid-range 4. But that's it. What did you see last night that makes you think that he has any chance to be mid-rotation?
This year? No, not at all.
I'm
willing to suspend belief here, though, that maybe that he can get better, right?
Oh yeah, he absolutely can get better.
Yeah.
But based on what we
Suspend
saw last
disbelief,
night,
rather.
like what's the pitch that's going to make him a mid-rotation guy?
Right. I mean, the changeup is the best pitch, but again, he has to get value out of the fastball, which he did a little bit last night. I liked the two-seamer. I was impressed with some of the two-seamers we saw. I was impressed with some of the changeup. Again, last night, I know you took exception to me saying it was an impressive debut, but what I meant by that was his ability to weather the storm, his ability to finish this thing off in a really good way against that lineup, especially when you factor in that lineup. It's his major league debut. Mariners are trying to maintain a win streak. It's a good start from that aspect, but overall, yeah, the stuff was unspectacular for the most part.
It was
totally 3
totally
blocks is not good. Yeah. Like, but
I
overall,
just-
he gave his team a chance to win the ball game, and that's all you could hope for.
Yeah,
and that's great.
He pitched his way out of self-induced trouble with guile and cunning, not with stuff, like a number 4, number 5 starter does. When Brian Wu pitches his way out of trouble, he does it with stuff. And that's all I'm saying. Emerson Hancock is right now a number 5 starter. Maybe he's a number 4, but that's what his ceiling is right now. He's just not that guy.
Sure.
He's a perfectly good replacement or above replacement level. He's probably a 2-win guy most of his career, maybe even 3. That's Kyle Gibson. I don't get this idea that like, oh, you're a hater on Emerson Hancock because I think he's going to be like a 10-year vet who pitches at the back end of a rotation for a decade in this league. Like, that's a good player. That's a good career.
It's never been about your opinion, Colby.
It is.
It's never for me personally. Maybe people on Twitter, which I've seen people on Twitter react to you about that. But for me personally, no, you're a hater because of how you're expressing your opinion.
First of all, take that pen out of your hand when you're talking to me. But I don't even know why that's a thing. But
I have a notepad. I told you.
I know. No, like. I knew it was going to happen last night. Thankfully, I had most of those people muted or blocked, so I didn't actually see much. But yeah, Emerson Hancock was fine. Like, I think that's the correct adjective to describe his night last night. It was fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
He was totally fine. Wasn't great. Wasn't good. Had some good moments. Threw some good pitches.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough consistency to say he was good or great or anything like that. It was fine. And that's probably who Emerson Hancock is going to be for the rest of this year. Fine.
Sure. That's totally fine. Right? It's totally fine. Again,
it's okay to be okay, Ty.
That's right. That's a good point.
Kyle Gibson's got, $80 million in the bank because he's been fine for most of his career.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Kyle Gibson because we're going to see him. We're going to see the Orioles coming to town here for Felix weekend. We're going to preview that series coming up here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Sleeper. Want the chance to win more money with less picks? Head to Sleeper, where you can win up to 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. Do you think Cal can hit a home run tonight against Kyle Gibson? Well, if so, head to Sleeper and swing for the fences with up to 100 times payouts. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players that you like and select more or less on their stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right and you could win big. Making your picks is easy and takes only 30 seconds or less. And if you win, you can withdraw your payouts safe and quickly. Use promo code LOCKED ON and you'll get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Again, the Orioles are coming to town for Felix weekend. You can catch all the action this weekend on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. Real quick, I don't want us to go through this show without acknowledging that JP Crawford obviously was not able to finish the game on Wednesday night. He was being evaluated for concussion symptoms after the game. You probably know what the result of that is now if you're watching this video. But for us on Thursday, we still don't know. So hoping the best there on multiple fronts, obviously for JP and in general, because that's obviously a pretty scary situation. We've obviously seen what's going on with Anthony Rizzo the last couple months and him landing on the IL recently. So hoping the best for JP, and obviously that would be a terrible loss for the Mariners for a undetermined period of time if that's what it ends up being. So fingers crossed that it's not, and that he's able to play soon, if not tonight. All right, so the Orioles and the Mariners, Colby, have been two of the hottest teams in baseball since July 1st, and now they are clashing. The Orioles, though, their biggest weakness is this starting rotation. We're going to see Kyle Gibson tonight. We're going to see Cole Irvin tomorrow, friend of the Seattle Mariners, who, of course, loves the Mariners lineup, has a ton of respect for them and what they do, and has totally not been completely destroyed by them every single time he's taken the mound against them. But overall, just your thoughts going into the series?
Pretty much the same as they are in every single series the Mariners have played this year. They have the pitching advantage, at least in the rotation. Will it matter? No, probably not, because it never does. But they do have the starting pitching advantage. Bradish is probably the guy that concerns me the most. Breaking ball guy. We know how much the Mariners struggle against breaking balls, so that's probably a guy that I'm more concerned about. Gibson's, going to do his part. He's going to go 5-6, give up 3 or 4, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, obviously you feel pretty good about it. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to be down, in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, because even though the false king Felix Bautista,
right,
blew a save this week and then struggled again on Thursday. He's still very good. Obviously, Cano has taken a huge step back here in the second half, but he's still got really good stuff. Like the Orioles bullpen is still pretty good. It's probably not as elite as we initially thought, but it's pretty good. So you don't want to play from behind against them, and their lineup is exceptional. So it's a game where you really can't afford to try and win these things 3-2 by scoring 2 runs in the 9th. You're not likely going to win a lot of games like that. But again, you do have the pitching advantage on your side. We'll see about JP. I kind of find it hard to believe that he's not going to hit the concussion IL. But that Demo has to step up. Caballero gets a couple extra days. So yeah, we'll see how all that works out, but they do have the pitching advantage going in, the starting pitching advantage going in. Bullpen has been exceptional as of late. So you have to feel good about that. It's just really a matter of, can you score enough runs? Because again, the Orioles lineup is deep and it is fearsome. It is much longer, it packs more punch than the Padres. So to think that you're just going to, give up 2 runs into, run a game against the Orioles, that's just not realistic. So you're going to have to score. And in theory, you're going to have to score pretty early against Gibson and Irvin, but you have a shot. You're playing good ball. I think losing JP is going to be a pretty serious factor here, because not only is he your best hitter, he's your leadoff guy. He's, the kind of the leader of the squad. So we'll see how they, go about trying to replace him, or if they need to. But I think, overall you feel okay about the series. And because you swept the Padres, you don't really need to do a ton in this series before you kind of start the quote unquote easy part of your schedule. So yeah, I think you feel okay about it, but you understand that there's only one team that's playing as good of baseball as you since July 1, and they're coming to town this weekend, and it should be a good series. These are 2 really good baseball teams, and they're both playing really well. And, the Mariners have the starting pitching, the Orioles have the lineup, and they both have pretty good bullpen. So it should be a fun weekend.
Yeah. No Jack Flaherty, no Grayson Rodriguez. You missed those 2 guys. Mariners countering with Castillo, Kirby, and Miller. And the X factor of those 3 really is Miller, because last 2 starts before the last one, 6 earned runs in each of those, but then a good start against the Angels. So we'll see on that front. But yeah, I got to feel good about, Castillo and Kirby taking them out on the next 2 nights. So we'll see how it goes. But this is going to be a really nice test for the Mariners, who obviously are red hot going into the series. 7 wins in a row, 6 series wins in a row as well. They've been the hottest team in baseball since July 1st. And so this is a team that they very well might see in October. So it's a nice little heat check for them. I'm looking forward to it. All right, so you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Again, you can catch this series between the Mariners and the Orioles on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. And not only is the best team in the American League coming to town, the Mariners are also honoring Felix Hernandez, who is entering the Mariners Hall of Fame. And Colby, you're going to be there. That's why we're recording this show on Thursday instead of Friday. So real quick, what are you looking forward to from Felix weekend?
Not much. No, I mean, obviously, the big moment is he enters the game. I assume from the bullpen. Typically, they let guys in from center field or from the dugout. But, Felix coming in, we'll probably get, what's the walkout song he's I'm the Man or whatever. Probably get that playing. Felix is really good at playing up to the crowd and all that stuff. So it'll be emotional, sure. I mean, there's Saturday night will be Supreme Court night, so a lot of yellow shirts and stuff like that. Haven't heard anything about K cards, which seems like a cop out of the Mariners not purchasing K cards, but whatever. We'll see if maybe that's a surprise. But there's going to be a lot of emotions. I mean, Felix was kind of the team for a decade, so it's always, fun to reminisce and all that stuff, but it's always emotional as well because, they're going to have an awesome video package. They always do. I'm sure it'll be, the perfect game will end it and whatnot and all that stuff. But, Felix is huge. He's probably the most loved pitcher in franchise history, if not the best. You can debate him versus Randy all you want. I'd pick Randy, but yeah, I mean, Felix is right there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who comes. I'm sure, I think Edgar was at the ballpark last night. That's not a mistake. Edgar's going to be there. Jay's going to be there, I'm sure. And we'll see how maybe if any of his old teammates come.
Adrian Beltre has to be there.
Yeah, I'm sure Beltre will be there. And God, I mean, I hope he is. I really want Adrian Beltre to be there.
Yeah.
I wonder maybe they sneak John Jaso, huh? The guy who caught the perfect game.
That'd be really
what
cool.
What if he caught the first pitch or something? Or it'd probably be awesome. Julio.
That'd be awesome.
Julio will probably catch the first pitch, but yeah.
If it's Julio, Kevin Martinez, if you're listening, change of plans. John Jaso, get him on a flight.
Get him on a plane tonight. Yeah. let's go. If you can track him down. But we'll see if any of his old teammates swing by. I wouldn't expect to see Kyle Seager. What might be interesting, although I doubt it, but he's not playing right now, so maybe Nelson Cruz, might make a guest appearance.
Is Robbie playing right now?
No. So I don't know. Does Robbie want to risk that? Like, if Robbie's there, do you boo him?
Why?
He failed 2 drug tests.
I mean, yeah, but I'm not booing him for that necessarily. It's like I'm not booing him for that.
But no, yeah, it'll be fun. We'll see who shows up. I'm obviously, all the Mariners Hall of Famers most of them will be there. But they always, or they almost always have additional teammates. I'm sure Mike Cameron will be there for some reason, which I'm not hating. I love Cammy, but he never played with Felix, so
yeah, he never did. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see who does all that. Rick always does a great job as the MC. Hopefully John Stanton realizes that nobody's there to talk about him and he'll, keep his mouth shut for once in his life. That'd be fun.
Doubt it.
I'm prepping for a 20-minute speech that nobody wants to hear. But yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be emotional. And then, heck, you got to play baseball games right after. And those things always run long too. So we'll see. We will see. It's a sold out crowd on Saturday. So no empty seats or anything like that. It's going to be crowded. It's going to be loud. And Felix is, one of the best, if not the best at playing to the crowd, in Mariners history. So I'm sure he'll get them going and, it'll be a lot of fun.
So the Mariners are 4-5 on Mariners Hall of Fame induction nights. They won Alvin Davis, Edgar, Randy and Dan, and then Griffey, but they lost Jamie Moyer, Lou Piniella, Jay Buhner, Dave Niehaus, and Ichiro, of course. The Jake Lamb game.
I was robbed in my Jake Lamb game.
The wounds have not healed from that just yet.
I still haven't forgiven Andres Munoz.
So can we bring it to 500?
That was going to be my coming out party for the Jake Lamb revenge tour.
Yeah.
But no, Andres just wouldn't allow it.
Good for you, Andres. Good for you. Can't let this guy have what he wants.
Talk about a hater.
I'm your biggest hater, obviously, naturally. So Felix getting inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame. But Colby, what about the actual Hall of Fame eventually for Felix? Do we think he'll ever make his way to Cooperstown?
Maybe eventually, but I don't think he's going to get voted in by the writers. Felix,
you think he'll get like Harold Baines?
Yeah, or the modern whatever, the player whatever. When his peers have a voice, which is ridiculous. They don't, by the way, but they should. But we don't have time to go over how I would overhaul the the Baseball Hall of Fame selection process.
That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole hour and a half long podcast. But I think eventually he'll get in. I don't think he'll get voted in. Felix's peak was more than good enough. He should have had 2 Cy Young awards. He kind of got robbed of one. And he had a 7-year stretch there where he was one of, if not the best pitchers in baseball. So that's not the issue there. The issue really is that he didn't tack on a couple of, because we talked about him earlier, he didn't tack on a couple of Kyle Gibson years at the end of his career to kind of, juice some stats, to push towards 3,000 Ks, to, push towards 60 WAR, 65 WAR, to kind of make him a no-brainer. The cliff came for Felix, and it came hard and it came fast, and he just couldn't, recover from it. So I think he's missing some bulk, which is weird because there are guys who get in basically because of bulk, like Tom Glavine pitching 25 years to get to 300 wins and stuff like that. It's typically, there are people who care about just like the raw numbers, the total numbers. There are people who care about peak and like how good you were at your best. And you have to do that for 6-7 years. So Felix kind of takes from one camp, but not so much the other. So we'll see how much the allure of Felix too, the just like the aura of him and the perfect game and like King Felix and all that. We do know that does carry some voters. The whole like, he was so many big performances and all that stuff. Like that stuff does factor into some people's vote, but I think he's a little bit short. So certainly no shot the first 4 or 5 times through, but we'll see how high his vote total is in year one. And that should give us a decent idea of what his odds are. But I would guess that he's probably not going to get voted in the first 10 years. I think he's just lacking a little bit of bulk on the back end.
You know me, I'm a bit more open-minded when it comes to the Hall of Fame. So I think, you can't tell the story of baseball without Felix Hernandez at least being a piece of that. Last 4 years for Felix, though, I mean, you mentioned it. He was... I don't want to speak super negatively about Felix because obviously it's his weekend, but bad. 4.89 ERA, 5.10 FIP over those last 4 years, just worth 1.6 F4 over that time. Ends up finishing his career with 54 F4 flat, which is really good, but that's kind of on the fringes there when it comes to the Hall of Fame. So we'll see. I think he deserves to get in, but like you said, I think that's probably something that comes after he's on the ballot rather than when he's on it. I don't know if he'll actually get voted in by the writers, but also what do they know? To be honest with you, what do they know? But
there's no bigger group of self-righteous individuals than the Baseball Writers Association of America. They think they're the judge and jury and arbiters of baseball history. And in reality, 90% of them are complete idiots. So, yeah. You never know with these things, but I mean, Barry Bonds didn't get in, and Barry Bonds is the best offensive player of all time. Yeah. So, yeah. We'll see, though. Felix, again, certainly can work the media and all that stuff. And he's, he does have the perfect game, which is huge. He does have the Cy Young, which is huge. Should have had 2. But we'll see. I'm not holding my breath, though. I don't think it's likely. But certainly rooting for it. That's for sure.
So real quick before we hop out of here, just favorite Felix moment.
It's easy to say the perfect game.
Yeah.
But I missed the first 7 innings of that game.
Same.
it was a day game. I had lunch plans with a friend. The team wasn't very good. I was like,
They were bad. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not watching a mid-August game. Like
right against the Rays on an afternoon. Like I had lunch.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had lunch plans. Like, no. Get to the 7th. I see that nobody's reached base. I hustle back home. I get to see the last couple innings. But so yeah, I'm not one of those guys who lies about being at the game. You know, there was like 19,000 people at that game, and yet somehow 50,000 people say that they were at the game. So yeah, obviously, you know, the Felixing thing though kind of became iconic. I think for me though, it's just kind of the totality of like the King's Court.
right. Yeah.
Because I think about like this is my house game against the Blue Jays, and
Awesome.
I think about I think about things like, you know, throwing like a one-hit shutout in Fenway Park with like 12 strikeouts. This was back when Felix was throwing 96 with a hammer of a curveball. Like didn't have the changeup yet. He was fastball curveball guy. I think about all of his starts against the Yankees, how he would just dominate the Yankees just out of spite. You know, I think about like the Supreme Court and the Night Court and all those fun things that they did. And I think about the final start, you know, Demo's amazing catch, which salvaged his final line, which wasn't very good, but and then just the interaction he had with the court after the game and all that stuff. Like, yeah,
which is the bobblehead that they're giving out.
Yeah, just interesting. You know, I don't really, when I think of Felix, like obviously the perfect game is a huge part of his story, but it's not one of the things that jumps to mind immediately for me.
There's so much more. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the grand slam off of Johan Santana, like that's pretty.
That's what I was about to mention. Yeah. You know, Felix walked so Shohei could run.
Yeah. Yeah. Clearly, because there's one thing we know about Felix. He was amazing with the bat in his hand. But yeah, no.
He wanted to make you think he was.
Yeah.
He wanted to let everyone know that he was nice with it.
he sure did. But no, I mean, yeah, for me, honestly, it's like when I think of like the thing that just like kind of like perfectly encapsulates like Felix Hernandez and like who he was, his demeanor on the field, it's probably that this is my house game against the Blue Jays. Yeah. Just the energy, the fire that he pitched with, like he took it personal. And
as he should have. Yeah.
Right. Like he was very upset and you know, the beauty of Felix is that he was never afraid to let his emotions show on the mound and sometimes in the clubhouse to the detriment of the team. But, you know, that's just who Felix was. So, yeah, for me, it's, you know, this is my house game. I think the Supreme or the Night Court game was also against Toronto, but I could be wrong. But yeah, just those big starts against the big teams that he always seemed to pitch well for. That's what I remember Felix, just ultra competitor on the mound.
Yeah. The Supreme Court, all that stuff, the iconography that went along with Felix, right? Just so cool. Like,
yeah,
there isn't going to be another Felix, right? We're not going to have something that's that unique in our game.
No, we've seen other teams try to, and they can't get it right.
Remember Keuchel's corner?
Yeah. Do you remember the universe for you, Darvish?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, they tried it like twice, and there's like, this is lame. Yeah, King's Court. King's Court really is like
come on.
Yeah, that is like. Oh, and of course, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't. When I think about Felix, I automatically think about Adrian Beltre. Just that little fun rivalry and friendship.
Obviously, the famous gif of him laughing at Adrian.
Yeah. Like it was awesome. Like Felix is awesome. Not a fan of how he reportedly handled himself, you know, towards the end, but whatever. He's a frustrated guy. And it is a real shame that the Mariners were never able to get him into a postseason game, but
yeah,
it's life.
Yeah, such a shame because I mean that would have been an electric sight, truly.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, you saw how crazy the crowd went when he just came out for the first pitch at the ALDS. Like, imagine him actually throwing that first, you know, Mariners postseason game at Safeco or Timo. You know, and whatever it would have been, you know, 12 years, 13 years, 14 years, 15 years, whatever. Like that would have been an incredible scene. But yeah, you know, nevertheless, just some great memories that Felix provided us as Mariners fans, and very excited to see him deservedly get inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame. But man, that makes me feel old. Like I can't believe all this time has passed and we're inducting Felix of all people into the Mariners Hall of Fame. One day we're going to be talking about Julio getting inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame. I'm going to feel really old when that happens. But yeah. So congratulations to Felix Hernandez. Looking forward to it. If you're going to the ballpark, hope you have a wonderful time. And hopefully the Mariners can do something that they've rarely done and actually win on a Hall of Fame induction night. So we'll see. All right, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez. It's DANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok as well over at Locked On Mariners. That's one word, Locked On Mariners. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.